Hey, how's it going? Today we're going to play some games with Ancient Box. Right now, the Pokemon TCG is extremely cheap to get into, which is really cool, and Ancient Box is one of the cheapest best decks that you could probably play, along with Espathra, Snorlax, Guardy, and Lugia. Like, you could build this Ancient Box deck right now for only $35, and Espathra, Snorlax, and Guardy are all under $50. And Lugia is $57, so that's pretty cool. So I figured I'd, spend some time going over the budget decks. And it's basically any deck without a Prime Catcher tends to be a pretty cheap deck to build. And if you also already have a Prime Catcher, you can build almost any deck for a reasonable price. But today we're focused on Ancient Box. So we got 4 Flutter Mane. Flutter Mane has an ability that shuts off your opponent's active Pokemon's abilities. So that's good against like Lost Box. It's good to stall. It's a 1 retreat, so it's a good starter, and it can just inconvenience your opponent. We have Roaring Moon, which is the best attacker in this deck. It has Vengeance Fletching for Double Dark. It does 70 plus 10 damage for each ancient card in your discard pile. So that's any ancient Pokemon or ancient trainer. Anything. We have Koraidon as a backup attacker. It attacks for fighting colorless and does 30 for each ancient Pokemon in play. We got Great Tusk for like a mill win conditions. For double colorless, it mills the top card of your opponent's deck. But if you play an ancient supporter, you can mill the top 4 cards of your opponent's deck. So that's pretty cool, and watch to the end to see how that works and also doesn't work on PTCG Live. We have Cobalion to add 30 to do 30 more damage against our opponent's dark type Pokemon. That's for Charizard. Sada lets us accelerate an energy to 2 of our ancient Pokemon from the discard pile. That's our energy acceleration. We have Explorer's Guidance in the deck. It's technically a draw supporter. It's really bad, but it is an ancient card, so that's always good. And basically the rest of the deck is just built to make the deck function, and we have Super Rods and Pal Pads to get back our Sadas and our Pokemon so that we don't deck out, because this deck burns through cards really quick. So let's get into the games. Alright, so first game we have a pretty bad matchup. This is definitely not one of the decks you want to see with Ancient Box, but it certainly can be winnable. That's why the deck plays the Lost Vacuum, because there's a lot of times when you're versing an Future Hands deck where your opponent leaves it so that if you can just vacuum the Heavy Baton and knock out their Iron Hands, you have like a pretty good shot of winning. But I was kind of hoping they were just bricking, because that's one of the best ways to win this matchup. But they Arven and then discard a research with their thing, so they weren't bricking at all. I don't really know what their plan was. I don't know, it's kind of confusing. But I'm gonna make a couple more videos about the budget decks, because I'm not sure that this is the best one. This definitely is the most popular one, and there's plenty of good players that think that this is the best budget deck that you can play. So maybe it is, because there's players that are definitely better than me that say that. So maybe it is the best budget deck. They don't call it a budget deck, they just call it a deck. So I decided to promote the Koraidon there because I'm not one-shotting this Iron Hands, and Koraidon I can do 120 and start my 2-shot with it. And I'm debating Superior for another Darkness Energy to just attach to my Moon so that I'm not forced to Sada next turn, but I decided against it. This deck doesn't play much energy, and Superior is the only way to get them from the discard pile into my hand. Maybe I should have though, because I really need to knock out this Iron Hands before they get a Baton and another Iron Hands on the bench. That's like my only shot at winning. And they're able to get down attach a couple tools and research. They do hit the Baton, which is unfortunate. This deck does play a Lost Vacuum, but it is prized this game. And I do hit a Nest Ball, so I can get Greninja, and then I'm able to Superior and then get a couple extra cards off Greninja and dig a little deeper for a Sada, which is cool. I can just get rid of Nest Ball and Boss since it seems like Counter Catcher is going to be live for quite a while. And I only take 3 so that I have 2 in the discard pile to accelerate with the Sada that I'm hoping to hit. And I'm contemplating Ultra Balling away Booster Capsule and Explorer's Guidance right now, just to get another card out of my deck and increase my odds of hitting the Sada off the Pokégear, and I do decide to do it, and it pays off. So I can get ahead on an attachment, which is really what you want to do with this deck, is like get full value off your Sadas so that there's a turn every once in a while where you don't have to Sadas to be able to attack. And I'm contemplating going for just 1 Dark Energy to leave it a better chance for me to draw a Dark off the Iono. And I get rid of my other Moon because these 2 Moons are, either they both get knocked out and I lose, or they live and I can win. Or one of them lives and I can win. They do get the Psychic to knock me out with Koraidon. I was thinking about attaching the Capsule, but they're already doing 200 with their Capsule, so there's really no point. And now they Iono me, which I think this is a mistake because I can't disrupt their hand, and they just did it for me. And I got 4 cards, and 4 pretty decent cards. So I can, like, you know, draw a few off of, with my Ancient Drum, I can thin some energy out of my deck. Like that. That Iono really only benefited me. And I just go for the 3. Maybe I should have benched the Koraidon, but I didn't want to risk a chance of putting another high retreat Pokemon in play and having them be able to stall until they build up in Iron Hands. Like right now I can penny up anything that they bring into the active, so there's no way that they can stall me with the current hand that I have. So I don't want to, you know, make more room for them to be able to win the game. They do bench in Iron Hands, and with my 2 counter catchers in hand, I'm definitely going after that. I see that they hit the Prime Catcher off that, so I'm kind of wondering if they're going to stall up my Great Tusk. It's like a catch-22 because it would leave their hands in the active, which is not where they want it. So now I can set up kind of like a checkmate board scenario, which is nice. So I can counter catcher up their hands. I just get rid of the baton so that there's no funny like energy switch funny business. I attach the Capsule just because why not? And now I can just get more cards out of my deck so I can super rod some energy in so that even off of an Iono, I'm likely to hit an energy card. And then I can penny up my Great Tusk so that I have a 1 Retreater in play and a Roaring Moon with 1 energy on it. So I can either retreat an attack or attach an attack. And this just kind of leaves me with a really good board to deal with whatever they do. And this is the only chance that I have to win this game, is for them to not get anything, and we do end up winning. Alright, so this game took forever to record, or it just took forever. So we missed the beginning turns. Basically, they went first, Buddy PAF and benched all their guys. I went first, talked about how I was not going to bench 4 Pokemon, so it would make it harder for them to attack, and then Ultra Ball to put some cards into some more ancient cards in the discard pile. And immediately I benched another Pokemon, so it was easier for them to attack. And if you'll notice, this person is one of those very fun people that just spams emotes the entire game to try and make you tilted. I don't know why people do this. Maybe like they think they're conveying their emotions. But it's extremely annoying, and I wish that Pokemon would add a mute button. Like on PDCGL, I'm pretty sure you could mute your opponent when they were doing stuff like this, and I'm trying to see how much damage I was doing that turn. So I start out, I'm like, oh, maybe I can just attack with Flutter Mane, and then, I don't know, because it shuts off all the Charizard and the 2 Incineroars have abilities that can't be used if Flutter Mane's in the active, but a lot of these lists are playing 3 DTE, so he can attack with Pidgeot. So Flutter Mane is not as effective as it could be. But we're just hoping right now my plan is to two-shot all their guys. And since I got my single prize, then their Radzard doesn't put me on an odd prize trade, it puts me back on even. So I'm hoping to win the game on that. And two-shot this Incineroar and one-shot Rotom, and that would be all 6 of my prizes. We'll see how that goes. I think a lot of these lists are playing Turo, but I'm just debating what to send up here. My hand is not that great, and I'm deciding if I should attack or not. I Pokégear, I don't hit the Sada, and I should have Vesseled before Pokégear, but since they Iono'd me, I figured that I had better odds of hitting the Sada off of the Pokégear without reshuffling my deck, and I didn't want to use Greninja because I only had 1 energy in the deck, and I wanted to at least like have the option to attack. I do end up retreating and just attacking because I know that the stall with Flutter Mane strategy is not going to work forever, because I would be doing no damage and they'd just have time to build up their Pidgeot, but they also have Turo, so they could have just Pidgeot DT, knock out my Flutter Mane, and they also have the Relicanth that makes it so they can use the Litten's attack, which if I attack into it with my Flutter Mane once, they can knock out my Flutter Mane with the Litten's attack. So I promote my Roaring Moon, just hoping to be able to take a knockout this turn, or to attack this turn. I have pretty good odds, like I have barely any cards in my deck, and 3 Sadas in there, so I Pokégear, I do hit the Sada, I put the energy on the Flutter Mane so that I can either attack with it or retreat. Then I can just attach, and I Super Rod the 2 Roaring Moons in now because I want them in my deck and there's a chance they'll Iono me. And I'm still 2-shotting even with the Roaring Moons out of the discard pile, and I'm not 1-shotting with them in the discard pile, so I might as well just throw them back in the deck. They evolve and attach their Forest Seal Stone. Yeah, I don't know, this is a really hard matchup, especially since they healed, but there still is a chance that we can win if we can knock out this Incineroar and then one-shot their Rotom and knock out I don't know, their Radzard or a Litten off the bench. We'll have enough time to win this game before they can win. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to bench any more Pokemon, or I'm going to try my best to not put more Pokemon in play, to just make it as hard as possible for them to attack. Like if I could penny up my Greninja and just keep one like Flutter Mane and an ancient Pokemon in play to keep like retreating, that would probably be my best bet. Which is probably the downfall of this Incineroar deck, is if you are able to play around like having Pokemon on your bench, it is very hard for it to attack. And they're also getting low on cards, so I always have the Great Tusk win condition. And I promote the Flutter Mane because that is my retreater. I'm hoping to top deck Sada, and I just kind of want to get that tool out of my hand. I'm debating bumping their Stadium, but I don't, because I want to save that Pokestop for a turn when I'm going to want to use it. But at this point, I'm just hoping that they can't attack me and that I can just sit here and stall until I draw the cards that I need to win the game. They get a DT, and they decide to attach it to their Radiant Charizard, which they should have attached it to their Pidgeot, and they could retreat to Pidgeot and start 2-shotting my Flutter Mane, but it looks like they're too concentrated on spamming emotes to actually think of the correct play, so that's always good. And they instant charge and get closer to decking out. We like to see that. I get a Pokégear, so now I do have the option to get Sada and accelerate to my Roaring Moon, but if I do that, there's no way that I can retreat and start attacking, and at this point, I'm kind of thinking I have to go for the deck out strategy to win the game and just keep stalling them. They're running low on resources, I think, and I have my boss and my counter catcher, and they have two retreaters with no energy on them and Rotom that can't attack. in play. So hopefully I can just keep bringing stuff up and stalling it out. But they're going to retreat and knock out my Radzard, and they attach another DT to their Incineroar, which they had 2 chances to attach it to Pidgeot, which would have just undoubtedly been the correct play. But they attach it to Incineroar and knock out my Greninja. And now they have this guy in the active. And I do decide to try and go for the knockout on the Radiant Charizard this turn. So I'm just hoping with the one bench Pokemon that they'll still miss attacks, but I don't end up hitting the energy off of that. I try to Pokestop into a Vessel. I probably shouldn't have Pokestop, but I'm just so frustrated from the constant emote spams. Like, I don't know, it's just really distracting, and I think it's really like disrespectful to do that. So it just bothers me, and you see the save pop up in the corner because I'm like, oh, I can probably actually win this game. As long as like they knock out my Roaring Moon, I can get into a Great Tusk attack for game. But, and I forgot to save the game log. You'll see why later, but they Pidgeot for another card. And they're taking forever on their turns. There's also, I could have also almost won on the clock this game. Because I don't know what they're doing, if they're like... Because with all the emotes, it would lead me to believe that they're trying to be as frustrating as possible. They're taking like all the time they can in between their game actions. And they retreat, and they're thinning out their deck, so they're putting energy in the discard, so they're playing around the Great Tusk. So this is like a good enough player to know that that is probably my best win condition. And I decide just to counter catcher up their other Incineroar. Because they can't retreat it right away. It doesn't seem like they have another double turbo, or access to another double turbo. I would have thought they would have started attacking with Pidgeot at some point if they did, but... So they do attach the Mist to the active, and now I am able to attack into them. And I want to, at the very least, get an energy on my Roaring Moon in case they find a way to knock out my Moon with, like, Turo, Rotom, Bench Relicanth, and attack with that benched Incineroar. So I Vengeance Fletching into the Incineroar to, I don't know, just put on a little more pressure. I don't really want them to see the game plan that I'm going for. And I'm just hoping to top deck into a Sada at some point, because then I can get all the cards out of my deck and Super Odd Energy back in and attack with Great Tusk and win. But they lost my Flutter Mane. I don't really know why. Maybe they wanted to make it so that I didn't have my retreat, my energy for retreat. So I don't want to knock out this Incineroar at this point. I don't think they have any Super Odds left or ways to get a meaningful amount of Pokemon or energy into the discard to Super Odd back. They just attach, and I top deck Sada, so I'm super excited. I'm like, oh, I just win. That's so cool. But maybe I shouldn't have thinned out the card out of my deck, because I didn't know that there was a bug where apparently Great Tusk doesn't work when you have no cards in deck. So I just concede because I'm going to deck out. That was like a roller coaster of emotions right there, because I was so excited to beat this person that spent the last like basically 25 minutes just spamming emotes at me, and then I outplay them, get the access to Great Tusk their whole deck, deck them out, and of course PTCG Live is bugged. Why would it not be bugged? You know, the game is perfect. It was released in perfect working condition. I don't know. That was really frustrating, but I should have won. In real life, I would have won that game, so I figured I'd show it off. It's kind of cool that I would have gotten to use the Great Tusk Mill win condition and stalling with Flutter Mane, so I guess that's why you would have those cards in your deck, like Flutter Mane to inconvenience people and the Great Tusk to deck them out. But of course, live doesn't work, and Yeah, and I end up losing, which really sucks. I would have loved to beat that person, but anyway, take care and have a good day.